All right, so now we're recording. All right. So like I said, I figured out what was going wrong with my demo last week, and I've got a solution that we'll try later. It should be okay. So I'll be able to play you Unity projects in stereo. Yeah. The only we'll try it and see how it works. Yeah, for some reason Unity was reading the audio samples twice from the queue, and yeah, you didn't need to get into this, but it was making it all distorted. And hopefully we'll get a solution, like an actual solution, happening pretty soon. Anyhow, let's start out. I'm going to share my screen. Nina, keep an eye on the chat and stuff for me. And yeah, if anybody, because when I share screen, I can't really see the chat, or I can't see your pictures. So if you've got questions, please interrupt, and say, hey, I don't understand. Uh-oh, somebody just wrote me, Nina just got kicked out. Oh, yeah, there's been weird things happening on the internet. Nina, I hope you're back. I think you are.
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
back, but maybe I'm gonna keep my video off.
Okay, that's probably a good idea. Yeah, that's probably a good idea. Okay, let me go and start sharing my screen and audio here, and I'm going to show you a few things, and then we're going to jump right in and try creating some stuff. Okay, here we go. Basic share computer sound, desktop 1, share. Okay, there we are. Let me get rid of my, you can't see it, but get rid of my Unity thing here. Okay, you don't need to see my calendar. These I'll just keep up for now. Actually, I can hide them away. Okay, let me show you first of all. I want to explain to you what Rtc Mix is. Rtc Mix is what we call a software synthesis and signal processing library. It's very old. It's been around since, well, it was called CMix back before computers were fast enough to do it in real time. Dates back to like 1983. And that's when I got involved with it. And we actually created the real-time version here at Columbia in the 1990s. It does both synthesis and signal processing. So we're going to be using it tonight only for synthesis. We're actually creating sound. Then we're going to be doing some signal processing with it in the future, where you can actually use it to add reverberation, add localization, all kinds of good stuff to sound. But it has a couple of interesting features. First of all, like I said, it's real time. The thing that makes it kind of fun is that you can schedule notes on it. So if you want a pitch to start at like the F above middle C, like 9.3 seconds from now, you can do that. Now, usually we're going to schedule our time at 0 because we want music and sound to happen exactly when something happens. So basically, when you send a score, we call them scores. You'll see what I mean in a second. When we send a score into Rtc Mix, that starts at time 0. So a lot of our start times are going to be 0. In fact, tonight probably won't be for various reasons. But just bear in mind, the language that we use in Rtc Mix to do this scheduling, it's kind of a fully blown computer language of its own. It's called MinC. I mentioned this last time. It stands for MinC, is not C. It's silly. It looks very much like C, only you don't have to type a lot of semicolons, because if you watch that Unity demo, that British lady or whatever nationality she was is going semicolon, parents, and just like all these syntax things. Well, because we were designing this language, we thought we don't want to deal with that anymore. So we just made it, sort of context free in an interesting way. So you don't have to type in all these semicolons and everything. I mean, there's a few things you'll have to do, but it looks very much like C, but it's not. And in a sense, we're actually using one language, this MinC, inside another language, which is C#, which is the scripting language for Unity. But that's not that hard to do, and I'll show you how to do it. But I do want to point out something that will be useful to you, okay? This is also in the documentation. I'll make sure to put it on the web page, okay? rtcmix.org. This is the main website for Rtc Mix, okay? And this is where we're going to go to look for parameters. If you type reference here, you can see these instruments. These are all the different things that make sound or alter sound in Rtc Mix, okay? There's some good tutorials that you can run through here that take you through the basics of the language. Again, we're going to be using it in the context of Max MSP, And I'll put the scripts online for PD too, for people who are using that, because we want to be able to use some of the interactive features of RTC Mix inside Unity. Okay, but basically you can go here, you can read all about it, you can download some interesting stuff, you know. It's pretty much up to date. We tried to keep it up to date. There's a few things, like I pointed you to a different web page to get your RTC Mix tilde objects. That's because they haven't shown up here yet. Okay, these are still slightly older, and I'm the one that's been programming those, so I haven't put them in yet. Anyhow, just kind of keep that rtcmix.org in mind, and we're going to come back to it later. But right now, let's go ahead and start working on some sound. So like I said, I'm going to use Max MSP. I've got Max version 7 and version 8. I'm going to use version 7, even though 7 will run most Max 8 patches. For those of you who only have version 7, I'll do this. Version 8 will read version 7 patches with no problem at all, okay? So here's what we do. We bring this up. We don't need to see this anymore. Okay, and I'll start this up, okay? And I'll show you again my basic Max patch, okay? For people who don't know Max MSP, this is pretty straightforward. It's a very object-oriented thing. You have these objects you send messages to, and they do stuff. Well, the main object I'm going to use is RTC Mix tilde, okay? And let me go ahead and give it one optional parameter, okay? On its own, it will do sound in mono. We want to do sound in stereo in Unity. So the first optional parameter I can get it is how many channels does it have? And I'll say 2. So it created this RTC Mix tilde object. By the way, is that big enough for everybody? Can you all see? I can make it maybe make it slightly larger. Okay.
Could you make it a little larger? Thanks.
Yeah. Okay. How's that? Better? Okay, good deal. Yeah, I'm looking at it thinking it's a little bit soft. Now, what this has is 2 audio outputs and then a third output that we're going to use to do some data stuff. And then it's got this input, and this is where you can send different things. What we're going to be sending in are bangs. This is the universal trigger thing in Max MSP. So that when I hit this bang, it'll send a thing to RTC Mix saying, do something. We're going to fill out what that something is, okay? So now I'm going to put in an easy DAC, digital to analog converter. This will allow me to play whatever the RTC Mix object does, okay? And let me check here and make sure I'm going to the right place so that you can hear this. Yep, Zoom audio device, life is good. Okay, this is pretty much most of the Max patches that I ever build are like this. Now, most people get into Max MSP heavily, and you can do all kinds of really fancy stuff with it, but I'm not a fancy kind of guy. So what does this do? Well, first of all, I'm in patching mode right now where I can add objects and move them around. I'm going to lock it, and that puts it into run mode, okay? Now, you'll see me just kind of doing this on and off. If you command click on the patch, it'll lock it and unlock it. So I'll be doing this just kind of by habit after a while. But once I lock it, what I can do is double click on this RTC Mix object and open up a text editor, because RTC Mix is a texting, scripting computer language. And we're going to type stuff in that'll make it go. Well, the thing we're going to type is we're going to use an RTC Mix instrument called Wavetable. And what Wavetable does is play back a waveform. And the default waveform it'll play back is a sine wave. Well, how do we use it? Well, let's go to our documentation and look at our instruments. And we'll scroll down here until we see, look, Wavetable. It's a Wavetable oscillator, okay? And this will tell you all about what Wavetable does. It'll give you some example scores, all kinds of wonderful things. We're only interested in one thing, this very top line here, okay? We're going to copy that out, okay? Then we're going to go back to this RTC Mix thing, okay? And we're going to paste it in, okay? Get rid of this. Paste, okay? What this is actually in the language, this is a function call. This is the function, these are the parameters. Anything in square brackets at the end are optional parameters, okay? And we'll use those in a while, okay? If you read the documentation, it will tell you what all these things are, okay? Outskip. How many seconds do I wait before I make the sound? Well, like I said, we want it to start as soon as we trigger it, so I'm going to say 0, all right? Jur, what's the duration of this sound? Well, let's just say 3.4 seconds. Amp, what's the amplitude of this? Well, RTC Mix uses a weird amplitude scale because it's based on 16-bit integers. You can actually use it in different modes, but we're going to use it this way, which means that the amplitude is from 0 to 2 to the 16th minus 1 to the 15th minus 1, something like that, which means it goes from 0 to 32,768. All right. I'm just going to type in 20,000. Okay. This number is not great. It'd be much better if it was just 0 to 1, like most normal things is. This is showing the heritage and the fact that this language was developed in 1983. So just think of it as just being 0 to 30,000 and you're cool. All right. Now, pitch. This can be a number of things, but the easiest thing that it can be is just how many frequency, what's the frequency? How many cycles per second? And let's just say about 250 for fun, okay? Oh, let's make it a little bit higher. Let's make it 350 so we can hear it pretty easily. Then these are optional parameters, and I'm not going to use them right now, okay? I'll just set it up like that. At this point, this is now a valid RTC Mix score, okay? I'm going to close this off. Next thing I'm going to do in case I made any mistakes is I'm going to save this, okay? So let's say save as, okay? And I will put it here in our class week 2, and I'll call this Wavetable 1.maxpat, okay? And like I said, I'm going to put all of these patches on the web page so you can download all of them, all right? So it's all set. If we double click again, we'll see this stuff. How do we hear it? Well, we turn on the audio, and then we hit the bang. There you go. We've just made a valid RTC Mix sound. Isn't that wonderful? We can play it again and again. Ooh, that's annoying. Okay. Oh, I see applause from Anthony. Thank you. Okay. Now, you might be noticing that it was only coming out of one speaker or one ear if you've got on headphones. That's because, let me go, I'm going to put this sort of guide back in here, okay? And I prefaced it with these 2 slashes. That means that's a comment. That's not going to be seen by the RTC Mix sort of score parser thing. So that just gives me a way that I can look back up and say, oh, my first sort of parameter here is pan. Well, let's see if we can figure out how to get it in the middle of our stereo field. Well, it's easy. If you put a pan number of 0, it'll go to the left channel. If you put a pan number of 1, it'll go to the right channel. 0.5, we'll put it in the middle. And we can position it left or right, however we want. Now, I should point out, this is different from what we're going to be doing later in this class, which is localization, because this just is an amplitude manipulation. Localization uses psychoacoustics to try and situate an object, and you can tell where that object is coming from. But this is going to be okay for us now, because now we can hear it out of both ears. So let me close this up. I'll save it again, and now we should hear both ears. So that's just wonderful, all right? However, that's not really useful, all right? Like I said, we want to create an ongoing ambient sound. First thing we're going to do is we're going to figure out how to get this note to repeat itself over and over again, okay? And to do that, let's make the note a little bit smaller just for now, okay? We'll say it's only going to be a half a second long, okay? So now if I play this, it'll just be, and I can hit this, trigger it over and over, but we're not going to be there in Unity hitting that trigger thing over and over. We need to come up with a way of getting it to trigger by itself, okay? I'm going to save this now as Wavetable 1A.maxpat, okay? Here's what we do. We're going to add another line to this, and we're going to use a special RTC Mix instrument. I'm not even going to look up the documentation, called max bang. And max bang takes one parameter, which is a time, to do the bang, okay? I should point out, if I hadn't already, that thing that I trigger in Max parlance is called a bang. In PD, it's also called a bang. Well, let's say 0.7. So that means that our note's going to play for a half a second, and then at 7/10 of a second from when we start the script, it's going to generate this bang. Well, what's the bang going to do? Well, here's the fun part. That's what this guy does, okay? We're going to take it, and we're going to move. See, I get to click all over and put it, and have it go back into that bang right there. So that means that when I trigger the script, it'll play the note for half a second, then 7/10 of a second later, it'll generate a bang, which will trigger the script again, and it goes over and over and over, and we don't have to do a thing. Now, the cool thing is that in Unity, we can intercept those bangs too, so that we could actually embed this in Unity, and when we started our Unity project, it would do this over and over again, okay? Well, that's okay, but we wanted to create this nice kind of ethereal sort of sound, and that doesn't sound very nice and ethereal, does it? Well, one of the first problems that I'll tell you about is that it's just starts and stops, and it also has clicks that start and stop. What we want to do is provide an amplitude, what we call an envelope to this, or something that's going to have the note fade up and fade down. And to do this, I'll take you to our documentation here. We're going to use a score file command. These are commands that don't make sound, they just do stuff in the score. And we're going to go down here to this whole thing. Ooh, envelope control, function tables, all kinds of good things. And here's this thing called make table. Create a table using a table handle scheme. Whoa, doesn't that sound fun? This basically, a table is old-timey parlance for a buffer or basically just a segment of memory. We're going to fill that segment of memory with numbers. And we're going to fill them in a specific way. Then we're going to use those numbers to modify the sound that we're producing as we produce it. By the way, is this okay for everybody? Am I going too fast? Am I going too slow? Yeah, I can only see. Yeah, okay, good. Anthony gives me a thumbs up. Yeah, so, all right, we'll keep on going. I'm going to use line, okay? And here's the syntax of it, okay? Let me copy that out, put it in here, okay? And here we've got table equals make table line. Keep that like that because that tells it what kind of table we're making. Size, just use 1,000. It always works, okay? Then you've got time one, value one, time n minus one, value n minus one, time n, value n. Basically, this allows us to create a series of line segments using this data in this buffer or table. So we can say at time 0, be at 0. At time, say, 0.1, be at 1. At time 0.4, be at 1. And then at time 0.5, be at 0. Now notice that I'm using decimals and integers interchangeably. That's another feature of this language. Most computer languages don't allow you to do that easily. And when we get to C#, you'll see that there's some differences there. Okay, but basically we've created. If I could draw this out, I wouldn't, but it's too annoying to try and do it here. We've created this sort of table. It's going to be here at 0, it'll be 0. And then for the first 1/10 of a second time, it'll go up to 1. Then up until 0.4, it'll stay at 1. Then at 0.5, it'll go back down to 0. So that gives us our nice kind of fade in and fade out. Well, how do we affect the amplitude with it? Well, we multiply the amplitude by that table. So that as it's executing, it's going to get multiplied by 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, then 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, and that will give us our nice fade up and fade down, okay? Let's hear it. And let's save this as, okay, call this table 1b.maxpatch. And now, that much better character to it, okay? But it's still not the ambient sound of our dreams, okay? Um, what we want to do is, first of all, I want to point out something. We want to create much longer notes, okay? Let's make these notes be 7 seconds long, okay? So just change it to 7. Save this as 1C, because I'm going to add a lot more to it, okay? And now, listen. Sorry about that. See, I have a bug. See how it was banging and banging and banging? Each note was 7 seconds long, but I'm triggering them every 7/10 of a second. Let's trigger them every 7 seconds instead. That way they don't build up and just sit there and go like that over and over again, okay? So now we should hear the fade up and fade down over a nice, relaxing 7 seconds, okay? There it goes again. Okay, yeah, kind of fun, okay? All right. However, not still really great, okay? Now, the reason I did that, though, I wanted to point out, though, is that I changed the duration here, but notice that I didn't change my timing specification here. This is still pretending like it's only 0.5 seconds long. That's because these numbers are arbitrary, and they will stretch to fit whatever duration that you're going to have there, okay? So I tell you what, I'm just going to replace these numbers with a scale of 100. I'm going to say at time 0, be 0, at time 50, be 1, and at time 100, be 0. So it's just going to fade up and fade back down. And it'll stretch that 0 to 100 sort of metric to whatever sort of thing that we do here. All right. What I want to do is create a series of tones that kind of overlap and shift and change their pitch. All right. So the overlapping is easy. I've already figured out how to do that because I did it by mistake. All I have to do is schedule the notes faster than they're actually executing. So let's schedule a note every 5 seconds. Okay. But this is going to be really boring because they're always going to be just 350 hertz, right? Well, we want to be better than that. Okay, we're going to say our frequency is going to be equal to, and I'm going to put in a function here. And if I was, taking time, we'd go and look it up in here, but I'm not going to. We'll say IRAND between 300 and 500. What does this do? And then we put frequency. Any number, any value that you have for a number in this min-c score that we're creating can be replaced by a variable name. The variable names are absolutely arbitrary. I could have called this variable Levy for John, and I could use Levy down there, and it would have worked, okay? But I'm going to call it frequency just because it is the frequency. Now, IRAND is a function that stands for interval rand. It will, every time that this script gets triggered, it will come up with a new value for frequency. And that value is going to be randomly between 300 and 500. So what I should get now is notes that are slightly overlapping that will all be kind of different pitches. And that might get me closer to the ambient sound of my dreams, okay? So let's save this and let's listen to what this sounds like. Well, that's okay. I think maybe I want a little bit more action. Let's maybe make the notes only 4 seconds long. Let's schedule them every 1 second, okay? So now it should be a bit more dynamic. And I want it a little bit higher in pitch. This is the fun part about using this language, is that you can start carving away at what you're hearing to get what you want. It's almost like you're being an audio sculptor at this point, and you're kind of like going in, going, let me try this, let me try this. Let's try going from 500 up to, say, 1500 hertz and see what that sounds like, okay? I'm going to now save this as one more thing.
Brad,
Yes, Nina.
There is a question in the chat, problem with crashing. Apparently it's been solved last semester.
Okay.
Max is crashing for Henley.
Okay. What? You know what? We're gonna have to. We'll deal with this afterwards, Nina. Maybe.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, sure. Sorry.
What? Henley. What happens when you get this? Okay.
It's just when I try to engage the easy DAC, it just instantly shuts down.
Hmm. Okay. So when you took the, we're gonna have to go through the installation of RTC Mix with you, I think. Okay. Are you using it on Windows or Macintosh?
Mac.
Okay. Yeah. No, it should work. I think it's just probably something where the library has been gone. Okay. Okay. Actually, I'll show you. Maybe what you want to do is kind of redo this whole thing. What I'm going to show you real quick is up here. You should see a folder called Shared. Are you using Mac 7 or 8?
Max 8.
Okay. You're going to go in the library. You should see that folder right there. And that folder should be exactly like that. There should be stuff in here. There should be stuff in here. Okay. So basically, if you have an RTC Mix folder anywhere, trash it, re-download it, and make sure that that library folder, that RTC Mix -2.01 goes directly in that library folder. Okay.
Okay,
That's the
gotcha.
only thing.
Thank you.
That's the only thing I can think of right now. Okay. Otherwise, we'll have to take a closer look at it. All right. All right, but let's get back to this for now. Okay, so now we've got these things generating random frequencies going a little bit faster, a little bit higher pitch. Let's hear what this sounds like. Okay. Maybe what's happening is that first of all, it's a little bit too loud. I'm going to turn it down, and a little bit too high pitched. I'm going to make that be 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. And let's make the max bang be 2, but let's make the notes be a little bit longer. And the other thing I don't like is that it's now all in mono. Well, remember, we can make it more stereo by changing this. And in fact, we can use our happy IRAND again to say pan val, or the pan value equals IRAND. We'll just make it be between 0 and 1. And that way, it will generate a random pan location. Okay? So let's try this. Okay? That's not bad. That's not bad. Okay? I think I want it to be more notes but longer in duration. Okay? And you know what? Let's try making it even higher in pitch though, instead of going lower. Let's go from 1,000 up to say 2,500. Let's hear what that sounds like. Okay? That's pretty cool. I like that sound. I mean, is it too piercing for some of you guys? I mean, sine waves at high pitches are sometimes annoying. We'll have to make sure and keep it kind of low in amplitude. Okay. But yeah, let's say that's it. Let's say that's the thing that we're going to do. Okay. So the next step now in our journey is we have to figure out how to put that into Unity. All right. And let me quit Max for now. We're going to come back to it later. Okay, and I can get rid of this. We're going to start up Unity, and we're going to create a very basic scene, okay? And then we're just going to add audio to it, and then we're going to add our script that we just made for MaxMSP to it, from MaxMSP to it, okay? Let me do this. Here's what I want to do. Start up my Unity. I've got Unity Hub going, okay? So I'm going to create a new project. All right. here it comes up with all this good stuff. Okay, I'm just gonna make it a 3D project. I didn't even know about this like weird LWRP template or anything like that they talked about in their tutorial. So I'm just going to use 3D, and we'll call this week 2. We'll call this g6611 / spring 2021 / week 2. Okay, so we know what it is. And where are we going to put it? Well, I'm going to put it in my class here, soft fall. We'll put it in week 2 here, and I'll say select that folder, and we'll create it. Yay. So now here comes Unity. All right. Unity takes a while to start up. In the future, I might have it already pre-started. Come on, Unity. Here we go. Don't need that. Okay. Do this. Okay, now I need to make this a little bit smaller because you guys can't see it, but the zoom stuff is kind of blocking out what I'm able to see. Okay, so let me just do a quick review of what was in the tutorial there. Okay, here we go. Pull this out a little bit more. Okay, now basically I have mine set up so that I have the game view here and I have the work view up here so that I can see what I'm seeing on the game as I'm building it. All right, and you come on, we're just going to keep this as the sample scene. These are where you list all the objects that you create, and when you click on one of those objects, it opens up this inspector that gives you all the stuff about that object. Okay, and that's, we're going to be adding some stuff to it there. Okay, so we're going to create a very simple sort of thing in this scene. Okay, first thing that I want to do is just add a couple of really simple objects, and one of the first ones that you generally want to add is maybe a plane to show you where the base of your scene is. So you can go that with create here. I like to go up to game object, and I'm going to create a 3D object, and we'll call it a plane. Okay, there's our plane, and now I can like rotate it around and, you know, do all kinds of fun things with it, you know, and yeah. And then if I play this game, it's really boring because that's all it does. It doesn't do anything. It just sits there and it's a plane. Okay, that's a thrill. Okay, just for fun though, let's add a couple of objects to this thing. Okay, the first thing I want to add is maybe a sphere. Okay, and if you go over here, when you add an object, if you always say kind of, let me click on my sphere. Under the transform, if I say reset, it will always put it in the middle. Okay, well, I'm going to lift it up a little bit off the middle so that we don't have like a humpy sphere. Okay, I'm going to put it maybe like 2 above the sphere, above the thing. Okay, so now you can see that, you know, here's my camera. I'm looking at it this way, so that's what I'm seeing, and that's what you're seeing down in this game view down here. Okay, all right, just for fun though, let's add another thing. Let's add a cylinder. Okay, cylinder. Okay, and it's right in the middle. Let's move it over a little bit. Let's first of all move it up also by 1, and let's move it over maybe in the x-axis. Maybe move it over by 3. Okay, so it's kind of like next to our sphere. Okay, and now, you know, this is kind of a boring scene because they're all just like plain and white, and that's, you know, something we don't really want to do. So we're going to create some colors for these. Okay, again, this is all, I'm going to hit save. Down here, this is where you see the assets to your project. You know, these are things that you add to these objects that you've created and things like that. This is where we're going to be adding our sound scripts and stuff like that. Okay, I want to point out also that you can switch from project to console. The console is important because that's where you see errors. We're going to encounter some errors when we start adding stuff. Okay, and some I'm going to do purposefully just to show you. Some I'll probably do accidentally because I've just done something wrong. Okay, but the first asset we're going to do is we're going to create a material. Okay, down here where it says material. Okay, and it says new material. Okay, we're going to call this sphere mat. Okay, and you can call them whatever you want again. Okay, and they also stressed in the in the video about keeping things organized. Well, we'll do that kind of in a future thing. I'm going to keep everything right at the top here of these assets, but you can create a folder and you could call it materials and put all your materials in there if you want. We're not going to do that this time, so I'm going to like delete this thing. How do I delete it like that? Okay, so just keep it there. But if I click on sphere mat, okay, in the inspector, it shows me all this stuff about the sphere. Well, how do I change the color of this material? Well, it's cleverly labeled up here where it says albedo, and it's got this little rectangle thing. Yeah, some of the Unity stuff is a little bit arcane. If I click on this, it brings up a color wheel, and I can now select a color. We're going to make this a red sphere. So I've now selected my color as red, and I could make it metallic, and I could make it shiny and stuff like that if I wanted to, but I don't want to. How do I get it onto my sphere? Well, this is the fun part about Unity. All you have to do is click it and drag it up to the sphere. Then if I go to my sphere, notice that over here in the inspector, it's added this sphere mat. And down there is all the stuff that we would see if we clicked on sphere mat. And I can actually change the color again there if I want, but I won't want to. Let's add another material just for fun, okay? Material. Okay, I'm going to call this cylinder mat or sill mat, okay? And let's make the cylinder be blue because it's got the blues. Okay, put that, oops, grabbed the wrong one. Sill mat. Put that on the cylinder. So now it's just a much better scene. You know, we'll leave the plain white for now, just for fun, okay? But before we get too carried away, now that I've got the simple scene, I want to add some sound to it, okay? And then we'll eventually add that nice, interesting ambient sound. I might take it back down in pitch. Maybe the pitch was too piercing. We'll visit that in a second, okay? How do I add the ability to run RTC mix sound to this? Now, Unity, like I said, has its own sound system. I don't believe that it has synthesis capabilities. You can download some other packages that will do that for you. But rather than that, we'll just use RTC mix since we have it handy. Well, how do I do that? Well, if you go to that page, we're going to get off of this. If you go to the URTC mix page, okay, there's this thing called urtcmix.unity package. That's the main thing that you're going to add to your Unity project. Okay, all these tutorials and all this stuff, we're going to get to this later, they assume that you've got that in. So if I click on it, it'll download it. All right, I've already done that. And if I go out here, you'll see here is urtcmix.unity package. Okay, in order to add it to your project, all you do is drag it into your assets. If you can click properly, and there you go. And it shows you all this stuff. Just import everything, okay? Now, once that happens, you're going to see something, okay? Oh, very, very, I don't know. Can I zoom in on this? No, you guys are not seeing my zoom. Okay, down here, it says assets URTC mix error CSO227 unsafe code may only appear if completing. Oh my gosh, allow unsafe code in the player settings. Oh, okay. Well, we can defeat this. Well, what is unsafe about this? Well, we're using things called pointers in our RTC mix library. They're fairly common in C, but C# figures that's a way that hackers might gain evil control and, like, you know, subvert your voting or something like that. We don't care. It's not unsafe. It's plenty safe. We're going to go up here to our players project settings like they suggest down there. And we're going to click on player. And if you scroll down where it says allow unsafe code, we're going to click on that because we're going to allow it. All right. Once you do that, you can close this off. We're now ready to go, and this will eventually just disappear. Okay, I'm not sure when it does, but it will. Okay, so how do we actually get sound to happen now that we've got this RTC mix stuff there. Notice that it did put a folder here called URTC mix, okay? We're going to click on this folder, and inside we're going to see some stuff, okay? There's libs. You don't need to look at that. That's basically where the RTC mix libraries are that work on Macintoshes and Windows. The README tells you stuff about it, you know, and it also tells you how to fix that unsafe code problem. Scripts we're going to look at in a little while. These are the scripts that we use to actually make sound. But we're going to look first of all at this thing called prefabs, because they are sort of pre-built things that we're going to use to create sound. The first one is called RTC mix main, and you have to add that into your object hierarchy here. I like to put it at the top because I like it there. It doesn't matter where it goes, but I'm just going to put it up there. Oops, I made it a child of the main camera. I don't want to do that. I want it to look like that, okay? It just has to be anywhere in here, okay? Once you've done that, you have enabled RTC mix to run. Well, let's run it. How are we going to run it? Well, this prefab called beep actually is an object like a sphere or a cylinder. It doesn't have anything associated with it. It's a game object with basically no sort of physical structure, but it has an RTC mix script on it. And I'm just going to bring that up, and it also has all the things I'm going to go through in a second that tell you about, you know, how you can make sound with it, okay? So let me put beep up here, okay? And now, believe it or not, we have a working RTC mix thing happening. And in fact, if I play this game, okay, now this is where it gets tricky. Yeah, how do I want to do that? Okay, if I play it now, it's going to sound terrible. You're going to hear sound, okay, but here's what it does, okay? All right, that's supposed to be a sine tone like what we heard before. Let me see if I can just kind of do this sort of snazzy change here, okay? Hang on a half a second. Here we go. Now, let me try playing it again. Okay, hold on a minute. I need to do something here. Okay, let's go to Soundflower. Can you guys still hear me? Okay. All right.
Yes.
Let's try this now.
It's quiet, but it works, and it's a sine tone.
We now cannot hear you.
Your audio went off after you selected Soundflower in the microphone setting.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Aren't I clever? Okay, we're just going to leave this like this for now. Okay, I'll put this down here. Okay. This is pretty insane. Okay, do you know what I'm doing? I have my Windows machine next to me. I can actually run the audio out through my Macintosh on Soundflower, which means that you won't be able to hear me. But I'm also logged in. You notice that there's two Brads in this section. I'm logged into the Zoom session on this machine, and you're now hearing the audio from that.
How do we know that this is the real Brad and that this is someone else impersonating him? I see the camera isn't on, so.
Right. I'm trying to cut down on bandwidth a little bit, you know. John, I honestly, I don't know what to tell you. You're just going to have to take it on faith, okay? I'm going to turn you guys up a little bit, okay? Because I couldn't hear you. All right. So now I want to show you what made that sound, okay? And in order to do this, we're going to look at this beep prefab, or this beep object that I made here. And let's look over here and look at what's in it. Okay, first of all, there's a transform, which shows you where it is. It's at 0, 0, 0, and you can see that it's there, but like I said, this doesn't have any like physical stuff attached to it. It's just an empty game object, create empty up there, okay? The next things that you see are important though. This beep script, this is where the RTC mix magic happens. Then we have to designate it as an audio source, because if you don't, it won't make any sound. This will actually put it in the sound producing chain for Unity to use, okay? So we're gonna take a look at this beep script, and we can actually go here and I think select edit script there, but the other way to do it is to go to the scripts, and here's the script called beep. These other two scripts, RTC mix main and RTC mix script template, you don't need to look at them. They're just the function definitions for that RTC mix main object there, okay? But if I double click on beep, okay, it'll start up my Unity editor, my Visual Studio, okay? All right, here we go. It's coming, it's coming, it's coming. Oops. Yeah, it gets even more crazy. I have a tablet here that I'm using with my notes on it too. So I'm pretty much surrounded by technology right now. Ooh, and look, I have a keyboard over here too. Oh, what fun. Welcome to my basement. All righty. Where am I? Yeah. All right, so I think this has come up right. What we're looking at is now the C# code for that Unity script. And I want to go through this, and then we're going to take this script and we'll simply embed the output. Well, actually, we'll create a whole new object. What the heck? We can get rid of our beep object at some point, all right? Now, between these curly braces and that curly brace is the definition of all of the functions that this script is going to implement, okay? And when you create a new script, it generally gives you two of them off the start. One is this start thing, and one is this update thing, okay? These are critically important. Start is the stuff that happens when you start the Unity engine going. Update is the thing that happens every frame that gets displayed. So that's where you do a lot of your graphical stuff. We're going to use a different function for our purposes called onAudioFilterRead, and I'll get to that in a second. But let me just kind of go through here and show you what we need to do, okay? First of all, we have to define some variables for our class. First one is called Objno. Now, I mentioned last time that you can actually have RTC mix objects, RTC mix processes hung off of multiple different objects in a Unity scene. The object number is which RTC mix are you using. And you don't have to order them starting from 0, but I do. So this is the very first RTC mix process. So this is going to be object number 0. Okay. If we had another RTC mix project, it would be Objno equals 1. You know, that's how we can kind of keep them all separated from each other. Then you have to declare this thing called RTC mix main. Okay. That refers, that's basically out here in Unity, this thing RTC mix main, that's a game object, and this is telling you that you're going to have a variable called RTC mix that's going to get all the stuff that's in that game object, and you're going to see how we're going to use that in a second. Then this thing, this is a private variable just to this. Doesn't really matter if it's private or not, you know. We just say did start equals false. This determines when Unity is actually turned on and producing sound, because we have to be aware of that, okay? So the first thing we have to do is tell that variable where to find all that RTC mix main stuff that we're going to be using, okay? Oops. So we do that here in this awake function. This is the thing that happens when the game initially turns on. It's before it even starts doing any processing at all. So we use this Unity sort of thing, GameObject.find RTC mix main, okay? That means Unity is going to go, oh, it's a game object, and I have to find it, and it's called RTC mix main. Oh, there it is, yay! So it finds it, and then you say, I want you to get the component RTC mix main. The component RTC mix main, if you look at it, is actually that script. And that's where all the RTC mix stuff is. Okay. Now, don't worry. You don't really need to know this. You just need to be able to copy it into what you're doing. Okay. Here's where the fun starts. Okay. This is the stuff you will need to know. First thing you've got to do when it starts up is to initialize RTC mix. And this is where we finally use this variable and all those component things that are on it. We say rtcmix.init rtcmix. This will initialize this process, and we tell it which object number we're dealing with. All of these are going to take an object number, because like I said, that's how you disambiguate the different RTC mix processes, all right? Then, here's the fun part. Remember our very first experiment where we just made a wavetable sound? Well, this is the Unity version of that. We send the score, and we give it in string notation. That's what those quotes do, is that they turn it into a string, okay? And we just send it this wavetable. That's what made that beep when I started it, because when I started it, I sent the score, and it worked, okay? And then I say, oh, it did start, so now that's true, all right? Down here, you're always going to do this, okay? This is the equivalent in the audio world of this update in the graphics world. This happens much faster. This happens every time you need a buffer of audio samples. And a buffer in Unity is 512 samples long. And we're working at a sampling rate of 44,100. So this is being called like every 100th of a second or so, or 100th, whatever. 10th? Yeah, well, it's being called a lot, okay? So all you need to do is remember you have to do this. Now, we're going to be filling out some other stuff in here later, but I'll get to that when it comes. Anyhow, so here we are. Well, let's see if we can modify this to make it do our cool ambient sound, all right? Well, obviously, we're going to be putting in our script here. Well, let's go back now to Max MSP. I shouldn't have shut it down. I should have left it going. Sorry. Take it a second to get it going here. All right. I don't need to see this. Click. All right, so let me go to Open Recent Patcher, which was 1D. That was our finished one. Okay, right, and let me make it bigger again so everybody can see it. All right, so here's our nice sound. Oh, yeah. Sorry about that. Yikes. Let me, yeah, that is way too high. Let me go back down to between, say, 700 and 1200. That might be pretty good, okay? And you know what? I just noticed that I have my volume turned way too loud here on this computer that I'm using to monitor. Okay, so now let's hear this. Oops. Oh my goodness.
You deleted a parenthesis in the
Yes,
RTC.
I did, didn't I? Right there. And it told me, look, whoa, it's not declared, line 9. Well, the line numbering isn't so good here, but let's now listen to this, okay? Well, that's not bad. You know, if we keep it kind of nice and soft in the background, it might not be a bad little ambient-y sound, you know, especially for our first step. Well, how do we get that in? Well, look, let's just simply take this, okay? And we're going to copy it out, okay? And let's go here and go, well, heck, we'll just put it in there, okay? So I pushed it in, and oh, it doesn't look right. Oh, and look, they've got things underlined in red. That means that they're not going to work, okay? And in fact, just to show you how this console works, if I try like playing this now, it'll give me all kinds of errors here. Oh no, it worked. How the, oh, I forgot to save it. Yeah, let me save it. Now let me go back here. Oh yeah, there are inconsistent line names. Yeah, there's all kinds of bad things. Oh, look at that, errors. There's this things like syntax error. If I double click on this, it'll actually take me to the exact line where the error is. Well, that's because this thing that I'm passing to RTC mix send score has to be a single string. And when I cut and pasted all that stuff in there, those were multiple strings. Well, how can I convert them to a single string? Well, there's a hard way and an easy way. The hard way is to type them all in by hand and make sure that you've done the proper C# formatting to turn all that stuff into a string. The easy way is to use this really handy program called the Scorealizer. And you can download it right there. And what the Scorealizer does is, if I double click on it, runs on Windows too, it brings up a window and it says, paste in your score and then hit return and type Control-D. Well, let me do that. Paste in my score, hit return, and type Control-D. And it also helps if you say Scorealize when you do that. So Scorealize. And look, C# formatted RTC mix score. This is the thing that we're going to copy and now we're going to paste up here. Okay? And just for fun, let's tidy up the formatting here. I think I can do this. Right. So now we've got this variable called score, but notice that string has a red line under it. It doesn't recognize it, okay? The type or namespace string could not be found. Oh, that's a terrible thing. Let's look up this variable type in the Unity documentation called string. This is one of the really cool things about using Visual Studio for this, because if there's a Unity function like update or something like that, you know, and as you start using more Unity stuff, you're going to get more Unity functions. If you type command and then like single quote, it actually brings up the documentation for that thing. All right. And it tells you, and look, if you read down here, it says, note, in C#, string with a lowercase is an alias for system.string. This means you can use either string or string in your code if you've added using system to the top of your script. Well, what does that mean in plain English? Well, we could do several things here. We can turn this into a lowercase and it'll work. Or we can keep it uppercase and we have to say up here using system. Okay. Basically, this using nonsense, they talked about this in the tutorial a little bit. This brings in whole families of functions and variables and things like that that you can use in Unity. I'm going to do it this way just to kind of keep it, you know, so that you know what's going on here. Even though we're using system.collections and system.collections.generic, we needed to use the basic system in order to recognize what a capital S string does, okay? Well, now capital S string has worked. We've got our score. So remember, RTC mix send score takes as its first argument a score. We're going to replace this wavetable with, with that variable score. So now all this stuff is there, okay? So now if I save it, okay? By the way, I was hitting Command S to save it, but I can do it here. I'll just say save. Now if I go back to my, Unity thing here, I'm going to play it. It didn't quite do what we wanted, did it? It played a single note, but we wanted it to go over and over again. Remember, how did we do that here? We had the max bang go back around. Now, unfortunately, when we send this score just once, even though the max bang is there, we don't have anything receiving that bang. That's where we go down to this thing. I said we're going to add some stuff to it. What we're going to do is we're going to say if RTC mix dot check bang RTC mix. Wow, this is the other fun thing about using this stuff. It brings up all the functions that you might actually use if you just start typing, okay? And in fact, that's what I'm going to do, all right? And it takes one variable, the objno, okay? So I'm going to say objno. Let's say if that equals 1, then we're going to do something, okay? What this does is it looks to see if a bang was generated as it's producing audio. When it is, it will do whatever you put there. Basically, it says when this turns into 1, you're going to do stuff here. Well, what is the stuff we want it to do there? We want it to do this stuff. Oh, my cat is meowing at me. Hold on. So let's simply copy that out, put it down in here. Okay, and again, I'm a freak for kind of keeping things sort of looking nice and formatted. That'll work because this will, when it sees a bang, it will then say, okay, here's my score, send the score. It'll do everything that we wanted it to do with that bang coming back and back around, okay? Now, we're going to tidy this up a little bit in a second here. But let me just make sure that it's working. So we go out here, we hit play, and we should hear. There it is. Okay, you hear the sound is a little bit wonky. That's because the Zoom compression algorithm that I can't defeat somehow. I've tried using original sound and all that nonsense, and it still works. But you should have heard that score was actually executing, and we were hearing all the different kind of things coming in, kind of happily making our sounds. Okay, all right. Let's go back and let's add one refinement to this, and then we're going to have a little bit of fun with the actual interactivity in the game. Okay. No. Sorry. You don't get fed yet. There. All right. Look, this is horribly redundant, okay? Having to specify the score again and all that. We've already said what the score is up here, right? Well, why can't we just simply use that variable down here? Well, this has to do with what we call scoping, okay? We are declaring this variable here. That means that it's only active within those curly braces, okay? Down here, we're declaring the variable here. It is only active within those curly braces. We can do something. Remember when I talked about these variables up here? These are variables that are active within those curly braces. So if we declare that variable up here, we can use it throughout our code, okay? And we're going to simply say string score right there. We don't have to fill it out yet or anything like this. Now, all of a sudden, that's going to cause some problems because we are redeclaring it here. We don't need to do that. So I'm going to get rid of this here. And then we don't even need this here because we've already filled it out up there. Okay? So once we get that set there, then that variable score has all that stuff. When we get the bang, we just resend all that stuff and it should work. Let's give it a go. Here we go. Yep. There's our sound, and it's happening, and life is good. Okay. All right. let's leave the sound for a while and let's go back to our scene. And let's say, well, that's such a cool scene and we have such cool sound happening. Of course, what we want to do is be able to move around the scene, okay? Now, the thing that we're looking at with this scene is this main camera. There it is, okay? Which right now is way out there, okay? And we can see it's like looking in on that scene, all right? The first thing we're going to do is say, well, heck, how can we get the main camera to move around? Well, it turns out to be really, really easy to do, okay? And this is where the tutorial is a little tricky because they're actually taking you inside the movement stuff and showing how it's worked. We're going to do that in the future. But for right now, there's a very easy way to do that. Basically, go out to my thing here, and I'll put this on the web page. This is not on the Unity documentation page per se, but there's a script called observermove.cs, okay? I'm gonna go back here to my project. I'm gonna take that script, I'm gonna move it down into my assets with my other scripts, okay? Then all I do is take that observer move script, slap it up on my main camera. And now if I click on the main camera to look at all its components through the inspector, I see all this stuff about its culling mask and everything like that. But look down here, there's observer move. And look, it has a speed and a rotation speed. Ooh, clever. Well, let's make the speed be 3, okay? So that'll go 3 Unity things per second, okay? Let's make the rotation speed be 1, because believe me, you don't want fast rotation speeds, especially once you get VR goggles on, because you'll start to throw up. Trust me, okay? So we're just gonna make that be 1. At this point, we can save it, and we're ready to roll, literally. The way this observer move script works is that I can use the arrow keys to move forwards or backwards, or left or right, or if I use the shift arrow keys, I can rotate up and down or left and right, okay? Or I can also do the same thing with the WASD keys, because those are, I guess, favored by gamers who are left-handed or something. I'm not a gamer, so I don't know, but people like that stuff. Okay, well, let's run it and see if it works, okay? Here we go. And just for fun, I might say maximize on play so that we can see the full screen version of this, okay? So I'm gonna hit play. There we are. Are you ready? I'm gonna hit this thing. Ooh. We can look up at it. Ooh. Ooh, we can rotate around. Ooh. Oh, we got to below it. Ah. I think option click will actually move you up so you can go up above it. We can go right through these things. So all of a sudden, it's becoming a little bit more fun. You know, we can start to actually moving around in our virtual world that we created with our own hands, okay? Fun times. All right, now.
I don't want to get too off in the weeds on this.
Yeah, sure, no, weeds are fine. Go ahead.
But, we'd have to look through the documentation and find out the answer, but for Unreal Engine, one Unreal unit is default 1 centimeter of actual physical space, which will be important if people are making things in VR, knowing how big like one Unity unit is and how that translates to actual physical space. So we'd have to search the documentation to find out what Unity uses.
Or I can tell you.
Oh.
It's funny because this shows you how radically different in certain ways they are. One Unity unit is 1 meter.
That's a lot more than 1 centimeter.
Yes, it's like 1,000 times more. Yeah. 100 times 1,000. I can't remember. Millimeters 1,000, I guess. Yeah. Centa. Yeah. No. There's something else really weird about Unity. Okay. That I think is just kind of annoying. Okay. You see this plane. I don't know why they did it for planes in particular. Notice the scale. This is how big it is. It's 1 by 1 by 1, okay? Our sphere is 1 by 1 by 1. That means it's got a radius of 1, you know, in all directions. Okay, so that's 1 unit. Our cylinder is going to be 1, and it's also 2 up and down. But you look at the plane, you go, wait, that should be like the size of the sphere, right? It's only 1 by 1 by 1. For some bizarre reason, a 1 for a plane gives you 10 unity units across. Go figure, you
Doesn't
know.
make sense, but sure.
Yeah, I mean, I can't, you know, they made their own program, and I can't really argue with them, because
Yeah.
generally it's a pretty amazing program. So anyhow, yeah. Hey, John, let me ask you real quick, how different is this from Unreal, by the way? Because that's something I've been wanting to look into at some point.
But I put this in the chat for everyone else.
I haven't seen the chat. Sorry. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, I know that you hadn't seen the chat. But I was saying that, I mean, they do the same things. So I recommended Unreal's like online learning courses. If anyone was interested in learning like what are materials, how does lighting work, you know, like basic how do game engines work stuff, because the knowledge is transferable. But this is like the first time I've really seen Unity that much, as opposed to Unreal, which is what I'm used to. And so far, it seems like Unreal is Max and Unity is PD, like where they do the same thing, but Max looks a lot prettier.
Interesting.
Like UE4 has like a really like nice looking, robust, polished like GUI. And Unity is a very like old time PC kind of GUI.
Yeah, that's about right. Yeah, Unity definitely has a PC heritage, of course. Well, I mean, both of them do, because you can still do only VR goggles on PCs. You know, eventually Apple's going to catch up, but it's been a few years in coming.
You can do VR, like the HTC Vive, you can use on a Mac. It just your Mac isn't fast enough to really do it well, but you can make it do it.
Really? Yeah, I thought it was impossible, because they don't even have support listed for, say, for I think for both of them they don't. Yeah.
I've gotten the Vive to work with my MacBook. It's just if I do anything more than like hang out in a very small radius, it lags like more.
and like I said, that's a nice way to nausea too.
And then also, just to briefly address your comment earlier, WASD is popular for gaming because you're using your right hand to look around with the mouse, so you have to use the left hand.
Right. I should point out also that the mouse is engaged in this virtual kind of thing that I do, the observer script. You know, if I click on, I thought it was bizarre. Anyhow, I'll check on that. Okay. Well, listen, I just want to do one more thing tonight, and then I think I've dumped enough information on you guys. Okay, the next thing is we're going to look at how we can make that sphere move independently of like us being able to move around. Okay. And next time we're going to add sound to that, because next time I want to start talking about interactive sound, and you know how we can kind of do that. Okay. So let's look at our sphere. I'm going to click on it, and here's all our sphere stuff. Okay. In order to make the sphere move, what we want to do is create a script that will control the movement. All right. So I'm going to go over here to the inspector. I'm going to add a component to it. All right. And that component is going to be a new script. Oh, you can't see that. It's down off the bottom of your page, I think. Okay. You still can't see it. Hold on, guys. Because I can actually see what you're seeing, I think, from this. It's up here. So I'll add a component. There we go. New script. Dang, you still can't see it. Why can't you see it? Let me make this really tiny. Oh, because the added component didn't actually move up. Ah, I know what I have to do. I'm going to close some of these down. There, okay. Now I'm going to add a component. Now you should be able to see new script, yes. Okay, so I'm going to add a new script, okay, and I'm going to call this sphere move, okay. You can call it whatever you want, like I said, you know, But once you do that, now when it creates a script, okay, I'm going to create and add it. So now you're going to see it show up on this sphere, okay? Create. Here it goes. There it goes. Sphere mat, okay? That's our script right there. It puts it in the top level directory, okay? Now, just for fun, let's put it down in the scripts directory that we have here for the heck of it, okay? So here we go. Let's go down to our Rtc mix, sphere move, we'll put it in scripts there. Why am I doing this? I don't know. Let's keep it out in the assets because that's all audio stuff. Well, no, the observer move is there too. Yeah, let's keep it here. Okay, well, we want to edit this script now and give it the proper instructions for making that sphere move up and down, okay? So I'm going to double click on it. And this shows you, when I said they gave you two functions, when you create a default script, it gives you the start and the update function, okay? And we're gonna actually be using both of those this time, okay? All right, so what we're gonna do is we're going to modify the transform of this sphere, okay? So if I go back to look at my sphere, okay, the transform, we're going to modify these values for the position. In particular, we're going to modify the Y value because the Y value controls where it is on the up and down axis. X and Z are in the plane and Y is up and down, which is the opposite of every math book I ever knew, but that's the way they decided to do it, okay? So let's go back to here. And let's start, we're going to create a public, we're going to create a variable that we're going to call, it's going to be a floating point variable called yval. Okay, well, now what's this floating point? Well, remember when I said you could mix decimals and integers in MinC when we're creating our RTC mix stuff? In most computer languages, you can't. And in C# you can't. You have to say, if you're going to use a decimal point in a variable, you have to declare it as a float. If you're going to use no decimal points and it's an integer, you have to declare it as an int, okay? This wants to be a float because we're going to use decimal points to determine, you know, how much we're going to add to it. And that's what we're going to do, okay? And in fact, we can give it, let's do it in the start. Okay, let's give it a value in the start. We'll say yval equals, and right now we have it set at 2, even though that's an integer there. It could be a floating point. We're gonna keep that 2, and we're gonna say 2.0. Now, here's the thing that is truly annoying about C#. Every other computer language in the entire universe, notice that there's still a red line underneath that. That's because for every floating point number that you specify in your program, you have to follow it with an F. This has caused me just hours and hours of untold pain trying to figure out, well, usually it tells me exactly where it is, but it's just really ridiculously stupid. Okay, that's enough of my diatribe. You know, Microsoft is good at some things, but this is not one of them. Okay, so what we're going to do is in the update method, we're going to add things to this variable depending on something. And the something that we're going to depend on is, you know, already I'm using my arrow keys to move the camera around, okay? But I want to be able to do something with my, I'm just using a keyboard input for now. We'll talk about controllers later in the term. I want to be able to move the sphere up and down. So I'm going to use my open bracket and close bracket keys. Open bracket or close bracket will move the sphere up, and close, well, vice versa, whatever, okay? You'll see what it does. Well, how do I do that? How do I actually intercept if I type down on this key? Well, it turns out it's really easy, okay? You can say if input dot get, and I type get, and look, all of a sudden, this pops up get key. Oh, that may be what I want. In fact, it is, okay? Get key, and it's going to take a function, a parameter, and the parameter is, I'm going to say, close curly bracket. So if that is true, Then we're going to add something to Yval, but just to make sure that this works, I'm going to show you debug.log, and we'll just say, hey, you hit the key. This is how you can debug your programs, okay? I'm going to run this program now, okay, and I'm going to show you where this is going to appear, all right? Let me go back out to Unity. Now I'm going to switch it to the console. And then when I start Unity, okay, here we go, we'll hear the music. There you go. Oops. I had maximize on play clicked right there. I don't want to do that because I want to be able to see the console. So now I go back and we're just going to see the gameplay area in there, okay? Now, when I hit that closed bracket key, look, hey, I hit the key. Hey, I hit the key. Wow, cool. If I hit any other key, it doesn't happen. Hey, I hit the key. All right. Hey, I hit the key. Oh yeah, it's getting hit. There it is, yay. Now, you're noticing something, and it's a good thing we check this out. Notice that every time I hit the key, sometimes it does it once, sometimes it does it a whole bunch. And if I hold the key down, oh, it really goes berserk, right? Well, this is a choice you get to make in terms of how you want your interactivity to feel, okay? Notice that when I said input.getKey, there were some other options that I could have done, okay? Let me go back here. Input.get. There's also getKeyDown or getKeyUp. GetKey will give you information that that key is being active for however long you hold it. GetKeyDown, if you just want to like bang it once and then send the thing, getKeyDown or getKeyUp will do it. Okay, I'm going to stick with getKey because I'd like to be able to like hold the key down and have the thing move up, you know, because it'll repeat over and over again. So we'll just kind of keep it like it was. Okay, getKey, there we go. Well, what do we want to do if we get this key? Well, it's fun to print it out, but we're actually going to take Yval. We're going to say Yval equals Yval plus some amount. We don't know what amount it is. Let's just say Yval plus, we'll say 0.1 F, okay? So every time I punch that key, it'll add 0.1 to the Yval, all right? Well, how do we then get this to be reflected in the transform that will actually move the sphere? Now remember, we're doing this in the context of this update function, so it's happening every frame. So any frame where we punch this key, it's going to change that Yval. Well, it turns out all you have to do is you say transform dot position equals something, all right? And it turns out that something is a special kind of variable. We're going to declare a new one of these called a vector3. And vector3 takes 3 values. The x value, which we're going to keep at 0. The y value, which is yval. And the z value, which we're going to keep at 0.0. All right? That's all there is to it. Okay? Now,
Okay.
how did I know that? Yeah, question?
Yeah. Do you not have to declare the x and z values as floats?
No, because I'm entering the values as a floating point value directly in the construction of that vector3.
Okay. But if
Okay, see?
if you were adding controls for like moving in all directions, you would have to declare x and z separately. Okay.
Right. And you would also declare, you would also then modify them according to whatever control, you know, you're going to be putting into,
Yeah.
you know. So we could actually add additional keys functionality. We're going to add one more to this in just a second, okay? You'll see why. But if I'm going to keep the sphere in the same x and y position and just move it up and down, the only one that I need to have as a variable is yval, okay? And how did I know to do this? Well, again, the fun thing about this great documentation is if I just click on transform and hit command single quote, it brings me the transform documentation. all the things that it can do, and it gives you some examples that are kind of like annoying, but notice that it's using this vector 3 and all that stuff like that. And again, there's good tutorials. You know, if you just simply type into Google like Unity use transform video, you know, what is transform? Unity tutorials for beginners. Okay, this will actually take you through everything that I just did. Unity, like Unreal, I think Unity is a bit larger user population at this point. They seem to be winning the game somehow, even though they may be clunky. But there's like, you know, easily 500,000 users out there, and a lot of them have produced these tutorials and things like that. By the way, word to the wise, at this point, I wouldn't recommend paying for any tutorials on Unity. You'll be able to find just as good ones for free. You know, we're going to be talking about assets in the future. At that point, you have some decisions to make. I made a policy whenever I do stuff, I always use free assets, just because otherwise I'm going to spend a lot of money. That's a different conversation. But let's run this. Let's see how it works. Okay. So we save it. That's something I forget to do sometimes, is make sure you always save this before you go back to Unity, because if you don't, it won't recognize you've added anything to the script. Go back to Unity now, okay? Let's clear our console of this for fun, okay? And let's, yeah, we'll maximize on play again so we can watch this thing, okay? And here we go. There's our sound, quiet as it is, okay? And now I'm going to hit that right close bracket. Oh, look, it's making the sphere go. If I hold it down, whoa, there it goes. Bye, sphere. How do we get it back? Well, we can start the game over. This is, like I said, we wanted to add at least one more thing to this. Well, what we want to add is we're going to take all this, put it there, and we're going to take this and make it a left bracket, and we'll subtract 0.1 at that point. So now we've got the closed bracket, we'll move it up, the open bracket, we'll move it down, save it, go back, play our game. Oops, wrong buttons. Ooh. Okay. So now we're getting a bit more kind of functionality to do here, okay? Like I said, this is about as much as I wanted to show you. I will show you one more thing though, okay? Let's go back here. Let's suppose that we didn't know how slow or fast we wanted that sphere to move up and down, okay? If I go up here and I declare a variable public up-down speed, okay? And basically I replace this, oh, it's supposed to be a float, sorry, public float, up-down speed. And if I replace this with up-down speed, and I replace this with up-down speed, okay? We have a variable. We've declared it here, so it's used throughout the entire class, and we're using it to modify our y-val. But the variable doesn't have any value yet, okay? Saying public here is important, okay? If I hit this with a save, I did a Command S, and I go back out to Unity, look what's happened. If I click on the sphere, okay? Sphere move.script, look, as if by magic, it says up-down speed. It says 0. We can set that. Let's set it to 0.5, okay? And now when we play our game, and we hit this, ooh, it goes a whole lot faster, okay? So that way, we can actually go out here and adjust the speed control without having to go back and edit our script and change all the places where there might be speed, you know? We could set it to ridiculous values and it would just bounce off the screen or something. But this is a way of being able to, you know, add some capability that'll make it easier for you to kind of develop your program properly when you want to. Okay, well, I'm going to leave that. And like I said, I'm going to put this project up online and along with the recording of the class. You can download it and you should be able to unpack it and try it out. And I'll put the RTC Mix class patches and the class scripts online so that you can also try those out. The scripts won't work so well in RTC Mix shell because of the max bang. They'll run, but they'll only run once because RTC Mix shell does not support that looping around kind of thing. Let me stop my share now. Okay. Wow, we still have most of the people here. That's remarkable. I was figuring this is like, you're just going to hear this droning Brad going on about this stuff, and you're just going to go, oh my God, get me out of here. Oh, this is terrible. Okay. Okay, let's see what people have been saying in the chat here. Let's see. Oh, Anthony, I've tried about everything. Okay, this is the result of many attempts working with Seth. Supposedly, like I said, we got to check out the new version of Zoom, which we haven't done yet. But hopefully that will make things very happy again. Okay, it looks like Anthony may have left. Yeah. Okay. John Levy, jazz chords, warm and crunchy. Okay. Okay. Oh, you want to see a Scoralizer logo? Okay, that could be a project for you, John. It's actually pretty easy to do.
Graphic user interface for Scoralizer. I just imagine it could have like a really great the Superman logo, but the S is for Scoralizer kind of deal.
That'll work. Okay. Oh, hey Chi, yeah, thanks for clarifying that. Yeah, C++. I don't think C++ does it. Yeah. Oh, well, actually, I think I probably just because I use the default doubles all the time. I don't even think about it. Yeah, that could be why. Okay. All righty. Well,
I have a quick question for you.
Sure. Yeah. At this point, any questions, any concerns? Please. Okay. Yeah, go ahead, John.
This should be of benefit to a number of people in here, especially people that aren't programmers specifically. Have you used Bolt at all?
No, I haven't.
So I just looked it up. This is news to me. This is the big reason that I preferred Unreal over Unity. But apparently that's not a reason anymore. Unreal has this thing called Blueprints, which is like a visual scripting language so that it works like Max does. You don't have to write C++ or C# in your game. You can, connect objects. But Unity didn't have one. But apparently in the last year, they've come out with one that's called Bolt. That's a visual scripting language that you can do all the things that you were just doing with the object moving, but you could do it connecting objects with little patch cords the way that you could in Max. So,
wow.
So I'll definitely take advantage of that. And I'm sure a number of other people will appreciate that as well.
If you learn it, let's maybe devote some time for you to give a quick demo of it. I'll be honest, I probably won't use it myself because I come from an old text-based tradition. And for me, writing code is much simpler, than trying to actually move my mouse around and connect things. As you will discover as this class evolves, it becomes very painful to watch me try and hit the little buttons sometimes.
I'm the opposite. I learned on Max, and trying to do text-based coding that's painful for me. For sure. So,
I think this is called a generational divide, John.
Definitely.
Oh well. All righty, gang. Any other questions? Hopefully you followed everything. Yeah, Michael, go ahead.
So sorry, this is step 2, and we went to step 162. But I'm gonna go back and watch and yeah, I was doing the rollerball tutorial last night and actually was so proud of myself because I don't really have much program experience. So definitely a good start. But so I'm using a Mac. I can't find the folder that I need to put our RTC mix into for.
You got to click on the left-hand side. It says Macintosh HD. And then from there should be a users folder and there should be a shared folder there.
Yeah, actually, do you want me to do a quick screen share and I can show you where you can find it, okay? Okay, hold on a second. Let me do this. Okay, share. All right. Let me get rid of this. Get rid of this, get rid of all this. Okay, yeah, what John was just telling you, over here, if you go up to your Macintosh thing, go to users.
So that's hidden on my Finder. Is there like a way I can pull that up? Because I have like my user thing, but I don't have Macintosh HG.
The other thing that I do is I go to my thing and I hit Command up arrow, and that takes me up a level. Can that work for you?
I don't think so.
That's odd. Okay, what you can also do is say go down here, and if you say go computer, that should take you to this kind of display, and you should see your Macintosh HD thing there.
Got it.
Okay, that now you're cooking with gas. Okay, then you go from there to users, then you go to shared, and that's where you should see your Max 7 and Max 8. Again, you're going to put it in the library folder right there. Okay.
Got it. Thank you so much.
Oh, no problem at all. No problem at all. You know, this is why we're here. And holy smokes.
If you had tried to put it in the Max 7 library folder that's in your documents folder, that doesn't work if you had tried that.
Yeah, I don't even think I got that far, but I think that's the option they gave me, and I was like, this can't be right.
That doesn't.
yeah. No, you have to put it in that shared, that because it has a dynamic loadable library. It has to find. Okay. Yeah. Any other questions? Everything cool?
Just a tip for Michael before he does that and it doesn't work. Or did you download the 64-bit or the 32-bit version of RTC Mix?
It's 2.01, so I'm not sure which one that was.
Okay.
If it says 64 at the end,
I think it's all 64-bit from then on. Yeah.
Well, I was just gonna say that for me, 64-bit doesn't work. Even though I have 64-bit Max, it doesn't work for me. But when I use 32-bit, that works fine. So if it doesn't work, try the 32-bit version. And then
Thanks so much.
That's weird, John. I'll have to check that out because I'm using 64-bit and it works just fine.
Yeah, I don't know what's up with mine, but I actually had to re-download it earlier today, like during your lecture, because even though it worked all last semester, it didn't work anymore. So
That's bizarre. Oh, this is not good news. Yeah, I don't like to hear this. What operating system are you using?
I am on, let's see what OS I'm on. I'm on Mac OS Mojave 10.14.
Okay. It should work. That should work. Huh. Yeah, actually, Henley, that may be a problem too. Okay. Which version of Macintosh OS are you on?
Let me see. Big Sur.
Okay.
Yeah. But I also might have had mine in the wrong, what you were just telling Michael about his folder, I was also putting it in the wrong folder under documents. So I'm going to retry there and see if that helps.
Okay. Yeah, but you know what? I'm not sure. I have to check. I think there may actually be problems with Big Sur. One of the things that I know you're going to have to do is there's instructions for how you defeat the gatekeeper. You're going to have to do that. Yeah, I don't have Big Sur. I don't know. Oh dear, this would be bad. You might, this would be bad. Okay, I'm gonna have to check into it. I have one of my former students is teaching at the University of Cincinnati, and I think she has some Big Sur people. I'll ask her about this, okay? But yeah, Apple has been kind of annoying, okay? Yeah. Oh, Michael got it to work. Yay, yay, good job, good job. Yeah, Henley, I hope we can get yours going. Tell you what, yeah, Nina was suggesting maybe stick around afterwards, but you know what? I need to check on this Big Sur thing first because otherwise everything we tell you won't make a difference, okay? So yeah, we'll just call it quits for now. You can go off and, you know, celebrate a happy day if you want to. So
yeah, I just tried putting it in the new folder, the Max 8 one that I should have been putting it in this whole time, and still an issue. It's still crashing, but I can try restarting and see if that fixes anything in the meantime until we're able to figure something else out.
I'm not sure that it will. And I'm not sure what to do about it in that case. Yeah, Justin's saying try 32-bit again. I think this is a Big Sur issue, but it's worthwhile. It's worth trying that.
Okay, we'll do.
Okay. All right, gang. Any other questions? Any other difficulties? Okay. We'll say goodbye for now. Like I said, it'll take me a day or so to get the. Oh, let me turn off the recording.